Hello and welcome back. So at the moment you just have the do now on the board that you should be able to see. If not, your teacher might have written it down before already because they might have had trouble getting the computer started up quickly. So your do now is list all the different types of finance that you believe is available to a business. Where might their sources be? What differences are there between them? So what I'll do is I'll just stay quiet for about 30 seconds. I'll give your teacher a chance to pause this video for about 4 minutes. Then you can go through your answers with your teacher and I will go through it after that. So obviously there are lots of different types of finance available to a business, okay? And this is what the main purpose of today's lesson is going to be, looking at all the different types of finance, in particular looking at the difference between debt and equity, but also internal versus external sources of finance. Now, this is something that will be very important for you as you go into HSC. As you know, finance is actually a whole topic by itself in HSC. So you will definitely need to know all the different types and sources of finance that you can find. So if you've sort of gone through the traditional routes of going, okay, well, there's a bank where you can get loans. You can also look at other family members who might be willing to invest in you. You're sort of going along the right lanes, but we just need to get you into a more complex answer. So let's keep on going with the lesson for today. So, of course, today we are looking at the intricacies and basics of finance as well. So, what is finance? Well, finance is the money that businesses use to fund its activities. So, debt finance and equity finance are the main sources available to small and medium enterprises, but each source has their own advantages and disadvantages of use, which I'm sure you can sort of begin to figure out what might be some of the advantages and disadvantages of each. But first, to do any of that, we have to know the difference between debt and equity. Okay, so when we're referring to debt, we're referring to using funds borrowed by the business through external financial institutions like a bank. It must be repaid, including the principal finance amount plus interest. So just in case you're not doing your either your 2 unit mathematics, your standard and advanced mathematics, when we're looking at the principal financial amount or the principal finance amount, that is what you've actually borrowed. So if you've borrowed $100,000, $100,000 is the principal finance amount. The interest is the little extra bit that you are paying on top of that so that the bank gets their own share or cut from it. Okay, so principal finance is the amount you actually borrowed. Interest is the little bit extra because a bank's not just going to hand you money because they really, really like your smile. They're going to give you money so they can get something back off it. Okay. Now, when we're looking at equity, we're referring to the capital contributed to the business by owners. Upon establishment, an owner might contribute personal savings as equity finance or sell shares in the business. So equity is sort of something that the owner already has in hand. They don't have to take it from somebody else. They haven't got any sort of chains or strings attached to it. Okay, now equity sounds really, really great in this situation, but you also have to remember very rarely do we have $500,000 or $700,000 just lying in the corner of our house that's ready to start a business. Okay, most of the time we are going to have to use this sort of debt financing. And if you do have lots of equity suddenly rolling around your house, lucky you, you are a lot richer than the rest of us. So, why is finance important? Well, besides a very, very obvious reason, no money equals no business. Okay, so if you're not doing the finance part of your business correctly, your business is not going to be running, it's going to be dead in the water. So, lack of finance is often the reason why individuals do not start up businesses or why they fail. Okay, without huge reserves of money, that they can call on, it is essential that SMEs think very carefully about where their finance is coming from. And yes, I am very, very well aware that there is spelt wrong in that context. Okay, we're going to count that as a little secret between you and I, that I'm constantly making mistakes in those PowerPoints. So if you're not maintaining your proper finance in your business, well, you're going to have pretty catastrophic consequences throughout the outcome of it. Okay, because if you're relying very heavily on debt finance, then as you might be able to figure out, you're going to have a very huge interest rate and owe a lot of money to a lot of different people. And if you can't pay back that money, then we've got big problems and your business is going to shatter and be taken from you. Okay, but we'll go through a lot of that in a lot more detail when we're doing HSC finance. So why is the actual type of finance important? Well, when looking at the difference between debt and equity, we are trying to look at the advantages and disadvantages of each. Neither one is naturally good or bad. However, when we look at the pros and cons of each, we will begin to see that there are sort of times and places where you might pick one over the other. For example, debt finance is great for generating large amounts of money quickly. However, it will also give institutions like banks more control over your business as they seek to protect their investments, which is possibly contradicting the exact reason that you started your business. Okay, because if you've gone to a bank looking for a massive loan, then that bank is now looking at your business as, well, partly theirs, and in a large sense of the word, it is theirs as well. Okay, so yes, they're going to be pushing for your success, but only so they can get back what they're owed. And if you can't pay them back, then there goes all of your control over that business, as they're basically just going to start telling you, this is what you have to do, and if you don't do it, we're going to retract our loan. So what I want you to do is I've attached some readings into this lesson, which the teacher will be able to give you. And you've also got the crossword. Okay, now what you should be doing is you should be doing the readings and then the crossword, because you need the readings to do the crossword. Okay, now after you've done the readings and the crossword, what I want you to do is, using the information from the readings and the crossword, you're going to make a list of pros and cons for both debt and equity. So what are all the pros and cons for equity, and what are all the pros and cons for debt? Okay. This should take you the rest of the lesson. Okay. Make sure by the end of this lesson you have a very, very strong understanding of what debt and equity are. I will also say, just for your own knowledge, sometimes in the reading, equity will also be counted as capital. There is a slight difference between the two, but not important enough for us to talk about right now until we get into year 12. So basically, when you're looking at equity and capital in prelim business studies, they are going to be the exact same thing. So do not be confused when you see those two words. What the heck is capital? It's the same as equity. Okay, I will leave you there, and hopefully I will see you now at the next term. Please make sure all these lessons are completed, because when we go through the start of next term, I'm assuming that all of these have already been completed. Have a good day.